This video is going to be for the Your Ranch Home design assignment. We're just going to go through the instructions first, and very important, do not copy this house. It's an example, so I don't expect to see any ranch homes that look like this. Stylistically, all ranch homes are fairly similar, but the point of the assignment is not to recreate this. So I'm just going to go through the instructions, maybe clarify a few things. So using what you have learned in the previous ranch home assignment, you're going to use those skills to make a ranch home with your own personal touch. The following requirements exist for this assignment. Your dimensions for the home will be no larger than 100 by 40 feet, no smaller than 60 by 30. Roof peak will be 12 feet high, 12 feet from the top of the main floor wall. Roof will overhang 1 foot. If you decide you want a larger overhang in the front, something like this, that's your prerogative. It's going to have a minimum of 2 dormers. You may make it into a component and copy it. Obviously, work smarter, not harder. The above house has 3. You can have 4 or 5. 6, it's up to you. So we're going to use our 2x4 boards for the frame. As we know in real life, they're 1/2 by 3.5. Now a little clarification: it says 1 foot spacing. You can do 1 foot, or you can do 16 inches, which is 1 foot 4 inches, which tends to be the standard. And walls will total 10 feet high. So footing and foundation, it goes through that 4 feet. That's quite standard. It does mention the front door and back door. It gives dimensions. In the event that you're importing a door, as long as the door fits people, my expectation is not that you're going to adjust a pre-existing door. This is just a guide so that we don't have people handing in doors that are 2 feet high. 2 large windows in the front. You can import them by all means, although as I get into this, I'm going to address an alternative way to create this assignment. Actually, thus the creation of this video, the second one for this assignment. Garage for 1 or 2 cars. We're going to cover the walls. You could use push-pull, although we've examined Plan B and Plan C for covering walls. The standard rubric will be used. That is posted in the EDSB page, and there'll be an additional column for creativity, so this assignment is going to be at a 16. Okay, so let's look at what we've got here. So I've already got my footing and foundation created. Standard. We're not going to have a basement, so it's only 4 feet deep. In the event we're going to have a basement, which we're not, it would be much deeper than 4 feet. Our footing overhangs 6 inches and is 1 foot deep. Now, one thing I've done is I've sectioned off a piece right here with a line. And for me, that's going to signify the location of my garage. So before I get too deep into this, I really kind of want to organize it. Now, you may have noticed to the left, I've got this stuff here. Now, all these components here can be found in the library section of your EDSB page. And this is a pre-existing wall, this is a middle wall, and this is an end wall, thus just one missing board. Here's a door, it's already built in. We've got 3 window options. We've got a small one which is tall, one which is short, and a large window. So what I'm going to suggest in this particular video, this is kind of our Plan B approach, is we're going to use these for the most part, although I do have my lumber pile. I've kind of organized it using tags. This is not a requirement, and it's definitely not part of the marking scheme. So I've got my lumber pile here, but I've kind of turned it off just to keep the organization clean, and also it helps the program run a little quicker. So now the first thing I'm going to do is, even though that I'm using these pre-made walls, I'm going to kind of create a little footprint as far as where the walls would be in the exterior. So I'm going to kind of bring it in. So they're 3.5 inches, okay? And that's going to represent my walls. Now, Furniture is not part of the marking scheme. By no means do I expect you to use furniture, but for this demonstration, I'm just going to use furniture. I'll delete it later. I'm using the furniture, just the basic furniture, just to give me an idea as far as how big my rooms are going to be, okay? Because if you're just looking at numbers, sometimes numbers can be deceiving. I mean, the average bed is probably 5-6 feet wide, at least 6.5 feet long, depending on how tall you are. And if you're just looking at just numbers, sometimes you don't get a very realistic understanding of how big that room is and what it can and cannot accommodate. So once again, I've kind of decided to go with some tags just to make life easy and help with my demonstration. So I'm going to activate the beds. So I've got 3 beds, which are going to symbolize the location of my bedrooms. So for me, what I'm going to do is I've decided that, well, obviously each bedroom is going to have a window. So I'm going to position my window above my beds. So let's bring this on over here. And let's just kind of make it in the middle. And there's my first window location. And I'm going to copy this over. And there's my second. And there's my third. Now that's going to kind of help me understand where everything's going. Now obviously my pre-made walls don't fit exact. I will have to bring them over, slice them up, and edit them obviously. Now what I can do also is I can get a better understanding as far as, you know, where my walls are going to be. It's up to you how you want to do it. You can go over here as you go and just kind of say, okay, let's grab a piece of wall here. Bring this out. Now before I put it on, it's a good idea to make this unique, because in the event that we decide that we're going to make some adjustments and we forget, that's never fun. Okay. Now let's create our bedroom walls. This is just our rough sizing. Okay. I'll just put a wall over here for now. And let's grab this one here. Pick it up. Make it blue. Okay. Now I'm going to make this end room a little bigger. So I'm going to have this wall come over, let's say, how it come over to like here. Make sure that it's on the floor, like so, on edge. Okay. So we got our first wall more or less created. Now obviously if you decide that you want to go with this length, great. If you want to make it smaller, start editing the component, chopping off boards. As it's pre-made, it just makes life a little easier. So these are additional bedrooms here. Let's assume that these are for the kids or guests. And let's pick this up. And let's drop this off. Maybe make this, bring it over there. And go like so. And let's just bring that over here. We don't have to go any specific sizes unless you've got a very specific idea and you want to start grabbing the tape measure and you want to go to very nominal sizes. Let's say, you know, like 10 feet, 5 feet, etc., etc. So I'm sure the actual size of this room is probably going to be, so I got 8 foot 9 3/4. So if you decide, you know, you want this to be nominal and you want this to be, let's say, 9 feet, that's up to you. By no means is that going to be, by no means is that going to influence the mark. Okay, so we've got our rooms more or less kind of organized. Now, once again, I'm just putting those beds in there so I have an understanding of size and space. So please don't go putting night tables and everything in. That's not part of the marking scheme. Okay, so we've got the bedrooms figured out. Now let's maybe look at the kitchen. Now, I've already imported this. I've already put it in the tags. I don't expect you to do tags. It's up to you. I'm just using them as an organizational tool. I'm actually going to turn the beds off now because I don't need them anymore. Let's turn on the kitchen. As this is a large component and it's the first time I've imported it into the drawing, it's probably going to take a sec, as it usually does. Here's our kitchen. Let's place that. That's where it's going to be. Now, some of this stuff comes with a door. So I would just say, hey, let's double check this door, make sure it's, that's 2'3", which is, that's okay, and that's 6 foot, okay. Just as long as the door fits people. And that saves you the trouble of having to import it or, incorporate the pre-existing door that we've already got over here. Now, if you want to keep these windows, great, you can keep these windows. If you want to take them out and maybe use these windows so everything matches, that's up to you, kind of like your call. Okay, so we've got our kitchen there, and we've got a pretty good understanding of what's happening with that. Now, because this has walls in it already, we're going to want to do an adjustment to the component itself. And let's just go in here, and we're going to make sure that these walls are the same height as the rest of the house. You don't want to have short walls. Okay, there we are. Now, as far as spacing, you may even decide, hey, look at this bedroom here, I've got a wall here. If there's nothing you want to put in there, it's your call. You can even decide, hey, I'm going to just take this, and for now, let's just make this bedroom bigger. So you can kind of like do this as you please. So you can bring this over and say this is going to represent a continuation of that wall, and this bedroom's just going to be a little bigger, and then you'll tune it in later. Okay. Now I'm going to bring in our bathrooms just to give us a pretty good idea. Bathroom 1. And bathroom 2. Okay. Let's get rid of that. So now we more or less have everything that we need. I'm going to adjust these walls later. But let's start bringing in our wall components, and I'm going to start with this end piece here. Okay. Let's grab one of these. Bring it over here, and let's turn this around. Okay, and as always, let's start out with making this thing unique. Okay, let's just go over here. And now we're going to bring it into this wall here. So I probably should not have turned that around. So I can just pretty easily. Okay. I'm going to go over here. Now, if you're going to marry this board to this wall to another wall that's already made, like let's say this one, or like let's say this one that's got a vertical board, you're going to use this open end. What I've done is I've made the spacing such that when we bring this over, it's going to maintain. I went with 16 inches on center, and it's going to maintain that. So if we were to check from here, beginning to beginning, that'd be from beginning to end, that'd be 1 foot 4 inches. Okay. Now what you would do is you'd obviously have to go in here, and we're going to have to edit our components, which is not a problem. So let's edit this component. I'm going to edit this bottom board here. I'm going to make that unique. And let's edit this component. Start by going straight up. And let's push this over here. Okay. Like so. And let's erase the boards that we don't need. Once in a while, it's a good idea just to look back, just to make sure there's no chance that you forgot to make that unique. Okay. I'm going to leave that board hanging. I'm just going to move it. But before I do, actually, I'm going to do that first. So we've got a pretty good guide. And drop that off there. Now let's go and edit this board here. Make that unique. Go straight up, and let's push this. Oops. Let's erase this. So we gotta go in here, edit that component, and push this piece out of the way. Okay, so we've got our first use of the wall, like so. Now if I'm going to kind of continue over here, I guess I can use my board like so. And I'm using the end board mainly because I know I'm going to have to use additional board components. So let's just put that in there. Okay, so I've got that filled in. And I'm going to also decide now where I'm going to put my door. So let's grab our door component here, our front door. We're going to have a fairly big open concept area here, which is going to represent my living room and my dining room. So let's just kind of put our doorway right there on edge. Perfect. The instructions say that we need 2 large windows. Okay. And I'm going to go with at least 2. And I'm going to put one here, fairly centered. Okay. And I'm actually going to put 2 more over here. Okay. There we go. Now, obviously, that you might want to put some windows in other spots. So I'm going to put some other windows in. Let's say this one here. This would be an ideal location for a window right here. So I'm going to grab this one. Copy this over. Let's spin this around 90 degrees. pick it up on the bottom. And let's just stick that right there, like so. Okay. This bathroom here has a window already in the bathroom. If you're happy with that window, it's okay. If you want to make any modifications, by all means, feel free to do so. As does this bathroom, since it's the same. Okay, so we've more or less got our house kind of planned out. And we've got all our stuff in place. And after this, the only thing we would have to do is bring over our pre-made components. Fast forward, I've got all my walls completed and edited. I've got all my interior doors placed. I use the pre-done component that was created for me over there in the supplied pile that I imported from the library. And the only thing I need to do now is, so I'm looking over here at my bathroom that I've imported. Now I just want to emphasize that you do not have to delete these walls and fill them in with the stud version that I've created for you, unless or the stud version that you've created yourself. This will just save you a bit of time. Plus, obviously, I can see from this that you know how to do the walls. This just makes your life a little easier. As mentioned in a previous video, you probably will have to do some editing, bring these walls out to match, which is okay. But I am going to need a door for my bathroom. This one didn't come with one. So all I'm going to do is I'm going to grab my pre-made door component that I've got over here. And I'm just going to drop it off like so. There we go. And then, because it's probably a little easier to push that wall over, I'm going to go into our component. And actually, before I go into that component, I'm going to make sure it's unique, which it is. Okay. And I just don't want anything else moving on me. And let's just bring this over like so. And that completes that. Now you've probably noticed that there is a overhang that was also added. It's a 1 foot overhang. All I did was I used the rectangle option from corner to corner, and then I used my offset tool and I offset it 1 foot out. And that allows me to have my overhang. Consequently, this filled in, so I had to delete it, which is not a big deal. Now next off, what you want to do is we're going to build the roof. So we've got our overhang, so that's going to give us the opportunity to measure for length. Thank goodness it's a nominal number. That's 42 feet. I'm going to take this opportunity to bring the lumber pile in. It's worth mentioning some of these components that I've put in the tags. If you haven't brought them in for a while, you bring them in, there might be a tad bit of delay. Okay. Now we know from our previous assignment that we're going to use a 2x10. I'm going to bring that over here. And let's make this unique. Like so. And make it unique. And since I brought it in, so if I delete this, turn this off, my board's going to turn off as well. If you're using tags, like I am, what your best bet is add another tag, because this is going to be something else. And then what I'll do is I'll go into my entity information. I left clicked it to make it blue. I'm going to right click and then click on entity info. It tells me the current tag is the lumber pile, which we know that that's not what we want it to be, because we want to get rid of that lumber pile just to speed things up a touch. Now it's in the truss tag, so I'm no longer going to use that. You might find getting in the practice of turning off some of the unused tags kind of helps SketchUp to run a little better, run a little quicker. So let's pick up our board. And let's see. Okay, so we know it's going to be 42 feet long. And let's just go into Edit Component. No, just for good measure. Okay. Don't need to make it unique. So let's measure this, and let's see, so that's going to be 16 feet long. That's our longest. So let's go over to our calculator, just go 42 feet, subtract 16 equals 26. So we're going to have to push this 26 feet over. So 26 feet. Okay. Now the instructions said that the peak of this roof is going to be 12 feet from the top of the wall, or in our case, the bottom of the truss. So what we're going to do is, let's find the middle. SketchUp should snap. Make sure we know what's up. So green is up, so 12 feet. Okay. So what we can do now is go over here, and same as there. And we could quickly go over here, and now what we're going to do, there's different ways you can do this. So it's a 9.5 board, so 9.5 and 9.5. Okay. So now we just need to continue. You could have brought in a component and rotated it, but I suspect that would be just a little bit more time consuming. You would have also had to use your protractor to determine how much to rotate. I think most would agree that's more work than they want to do. Okay, touch that. That'll help us out. And we'll just extend that edge. Let's get rid of the stuff that we no longer need. Okay. Okay. Let's push this over, see if it, yep, so it's going to leave a space. We're going to fill that in. That's okay. Push this over. Okay, now we just have to use our pencil to fill that in. Just go across. Should work. It does. And it's filled in all the way around. For good measure, I'm going to put my, there we go. And delete that surface back there. And let's see. We're now going to push this over. Push this over. And we have ourselves a truss. Okay, now let's put it on. I'm going to leave this truss down here just in case. We need to come back and use it. Okay. Now don't forget that the spacing of the overhang is 1 foot, but the spacing what we're going to use for the trusses is going to be 16 inches. So we need to draw a line here, and we're going to start our copy from this point. Now, in previous drawings, we always had to ensure that we would have a truss on top of one of these boards. But because we have so many boards in here with our windows, doors, and whatnot, that's not necessarily going to be the case. So let's just copy this. And I'm going to hold the control down, let go of control, bring it over here, and I'm going to type in 16 inches, enter. Then I'm going to type in X, and I'm going to guess a number. So it's 100 feet. Let's go 100. Bit of a delay in the program. That's okay. There's all our trusses. Let's see how many extra I did. See, 100 was a bad guess. So basically, I just have to delete the number of trusses that I was wrong. So let's see. So our last truss over here is this one. And I do want to put this one on the overhang. And then oops. And I'll just, looks like I tossed that to the side, which I didn't want to do. I'll just leave that at the corner. And that's it for our trusses. And we've got our basic roof system all done. With a few more steps to follow.